Disney released yet another Toy Story movie this past weekend with Toy Story 5, and I was admittedly very excited for this one. Not only because I think all the Toy Story movies are phenomenal, but I really appreciate the subject matter they're tackling with this one. Toys versus tech, addressing the iPad babies that are plaguing our society and making us all stressed about the future. Having an 8-year-old niece that's 1000% an iPad baby and having a 5-year-old niece that's quite the opposite, this premise was really intriguing for me and something that immediately drew me to the film. I'm a big Toy Story fan, and yes, I've heard the exhausting argument over the years, and I agree. They should have stopped at 3. But we know how these big corporations operate. So here we are, fifth time. Let's talk about it. Nah, 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 nah. Damn, said that. At this point, the only two things that I require from a Toy Story movie is one, being good, and two, having a story that justifies its existence. And I think this movie nails both of those. It has the tear jerking emotional moments, it's very funny, it's visually stunning, and I think the story is engaging as well. It highlights Jesse for the first time and D centers Woody and Buzz, which I didn't have a major issue with. Since the movie is still fresh, I won't dive super deep into the plot, but the premise of the movie has been out there for a while. It's toys versus tech, and the villain of the film is this green iPad called Lilypad. Bonnie's like 8 years old, I think. I'm not really sure, but she's struggling to make friends because she's one of the only kids around her that's her age and still plays with toys. All the other kids have moved on to the iPads. While trying to get the neighbors to play with Bonnie, Jesse and Bullseye discover from toys in that yard just how bad the technology problem has gotten for toys. Now, if you remember Toy Story 2, Jessie has extreme abandonment issues from her previous owner, her first owner, Emily. I know we all remember the song. So, of course, she passionately rejects this idea. Bonnie's parents get her a lily pad in the next scene, and she immediately abandons the toys, which leads Jesse to call in Woody for help. I'm not going to say Woody didn't need to be here because narratively it does make sense. He's very loyal, so when his friends call upon him, he's going to show up. But man, yo, he did not have much to do in this movie at all. Besides bicker with Buzz, there really wasn't much for him to do. Buzz had a little bit more to do than Woody because there's an added layer to his character in the story. Because throughout the film, he's trying to work up the courage to propose to Jesse. From the previous two films, it is clear that he has this crush on Jesse, and it all comes to a head in this film. There's also this army of Buzz Lightyear toys that crash land somewhere near Bonnie lives on the shore, and certain circumstances throughout the film lead them to where our toys are, and it all comes together nicely. I won't spend too much time talking about the Buzz Gang, but they were hilarious. And some of the funniest moments from the film, in my opinion, come from these characters. But anyway, Bonnie gets addicted to Lilypad, and Lilypad helps her set up her first sleepover with some of her friends. This movie takes an interesting angle with the Lilypad character, in that she's not necessarily a villain or she's not necessarily evil. She is doing what she genuinely thinks is best for kids Bonnie's age. It also understands that technology is inevitable, and at some point it's going to consume 99% of us. So the iPad isn't some evil that's overtaking Bonnie. It's looked at as the next step in her development and the new way that kids interact. Bonnie brings Jesse and Bullseye to the sleepover, and she immediately gets made fun of by the kids, so she gives them back to her parents. Toy Story shenanigans lead Jessie and Bullseye back to her old home where her former owner Emily lived. Jessie's running from that feeling of abandonment that she felt with Emily back in the day, and she even calls herself useless at some point. There's a girl that lives there named Blaze, and she's around Bonnie's age, and she's as imaginative and playful as Bonnie is. She also meets a few comedic relief toys. One of them is Smarty Pants, who is voiced by Conan O'Brien. I thought he was fine. A lot of reviews are calling the character hilarious. I thought he was funny sometimes, but honestly, it was a little bit overdone to me. Like the stuff in him in the beginning with him being drunk, it wasn't that funny. But he had some moments in the film that did make me laugh. Due to some silly writing, the girls get together, and Bonnie rejects taking her toys back because she was just cyberbullied by her friends. This causes Lilypad to realize that she picked the wrong friends for Bonnie, and she flees in guilt. Of course, Toy Story shenanigans will bring everybody back together. The third act is what really made this movie for me. There are some heavy moments that touch on bullying, abandonment, acceptance. I won't spoil it, but there's a really special callback to Toy Story 2 that leads Jessie to realize that because her time with Emily was limited, it doesn't mean that it didn't matter at all. And she's able to see proof of just how much she meant to Emily. I think this movie also sends a powerful message about finding your people. There's nothing wrong with the fact that Bonnie still plays with toys, and she shouldn't have to relinquish that part of her childhood in order to fit in. My other niece I mentioned earlier, who's 5 years old, is brilliant, and she really enjoys playing games that are educational. And I would hate for her to feel like she has to change who she is because of the kids that she's around. I'm not saying anything is wrong with kids using technology. I actually think it's quite useful in moderation. But it should be a smooth transition as kids reach a certain age, not something they're pressured into because they see the next kid with it. I don't think keeping your kids away from technology is sparing them in some way because, again, eventually it's going to happen. But I think it's important for kids to shape their own childhood with their own specific interests. I say all that to say I appreciate this movie taking a unique angle on this topic and still being charming and reverent. It was funny, visually appealing, and emotional enough to edge out Toy Story 4 for me. I also like how the movie depicts imaginative play as well. They use a different animation style whenever the kids are playing with toys, and it's really unique because it allows the toys to do things that they normally aren't able to do. In conclusion, I love Toy Story 5. I don't know if it's possible for any Toy Story movie to break that top three for me because that original trilogy is very special. But this is yet another great Toy Story movie, in my opinion, that can stand with the rest of them. I'm going to give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. I highly recommend this movie, especially if you have kids. Comment below what you think of this movie or what you think of the topic that it touches on. And as always, Dame said that.